I was gonna say, I grew up in Greenbrier, Tennessee. I've always been in Nashville, um, and I come from the Christianity, and
Yes.
my dad is a song leader in Church of Christ and stuff like that. And up until I was about 16 years old, I went to a Christian school my entire life, so I guess you could say I was kind of sheltered just a little bit, just a tad. But I went to UT whenever I turned 18. I spent a couple of years there, and it really did open up my eyes. And contrary to what my father is, my father's very conservative, but I'm a little bit more open-minded. But like I said, I had never heard of this, and as my research goes on, like I see that it's fairly new. Is that correct? And when I say that?
Yeah, 1800s, yes.
Okay. Okay. So, what I wanted to start off with, okay, what is the significance of the festival of Rizwan, from a person who follows the faith? I know with all the stuff I've done, everybody interprets it differently. How do you interpret it?
Rizwan is a festival that commemorates the announcement that the founder of the faith, Baha'u'llah, made to his followers that he indeed was the one that they had been expecting and waiting for, that messenger of God.
Okay.
And it started in 1863.
Okay.
When it started. So we commemorate that day as a great festival. It occurs towards the end of April, so it's a nice time to celebrate because the weather's getting nice.
Oh yeah, it actually, and it's kind of meant to be because my birthday is April the 20th, so it's right before then.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah, and so with for my understanding is what Baha'u'llah can he be compared as a figure like Christians worship Jesus Christ or Abraham or King David or like Muhammad or something like that? Can he be compared like that?
Yes, Baha'u'llah says that the messengers of God, these great, he calls them manifestations of God or great prophets, bring a book which from those words of God, civilizations emerge.
Yeah.
Following those teachings. So he specifically mentions as in a series of these messengers, he mentions Abraham, the friend of God, Moses, you're in one of those
sorry.
Little lights.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry about that.
The mouthpiece of God.
Yeah.
Jesus, the Son of God. Muhammad, also the friend of God. And Baha'u'llah actually means the glory of God.
The glory of God.
So he says that they are all one voice coming from one God, and their message varies only according to the capacity of mankind at the time they are sent to give their message.
Okay.
In other words, that religion is like a first grade, you would have a certain teacher. Second grade, you would have a different teacher who would build on those lessons.
Yeah.
Third grade, you'd have, and it could be that you get to the sixth grade saying, oh, my sixth grade teacher is so much more brilliant than my first grade teacher.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's the student that has gained in capacity according to the teachers that have taught him over the years.
Okay. Okay.
That's the same belief that Baha'is have regarding the succession of what appear to be different religions, but in fact is one religion.
Yeah. Okay. And so, I mean, definitely it is kind of looking at from an educational standpoint. Everybody starts at one place and then builds on top. Another thing is with the festival, is it kind of like is it a required pilgrimage that you have to take once in your life? Is it optional?
That's actually two different subjects. One is the festival of Rizwan, which is celebrated worldwide in whatever community that we live in.
Okay.
And the pilgrimage is we're asked if we can afford it to at least once in our lifetime make a pilgrimage to the Baha'i holy places, which are in Israel.
Yeah.
and so I've been able to do that.
Oh, you have?
Yeah,
Oh, well, I've seen videos on it, and it looks beautiful. It looks like a very tranquil place.
It very much so is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and they're located in, I think it's northern Israel. Those gardens. Northern Israel.
A city called Haifa.
Okay. All right. And so, with that festival, what I know it starts on the 21st of April, and it's 12 days. And tell me if I'm right. It is they're celebrating the time when Baha'u'llah leaves or is exiled from Persia, and he is saying goodbye to everyone. Am I kind of getting it right?
What happened was he had been for espousing religious teachings which talked about the equality of women and men, the liberation of all people, and the oneness of humanity. He was viewed as a threat to the existing clergy in Iran. Thrown into prison. They couldn't find anything, any real thing to convict him on, so they said, okay, you're too much trouble. We're going to send you to the Ottoman Empire. So they exiled him to Baghdad, which is part of the Ottoman Empire at that time.
Okay.
But in the 10 years that he lived in Baghdad under exile, the people that were supposed to be in charge of keeping him a prisoner, so to speak, came to appreciate him. His followers would walk from Iran to visit him, so this was too close. So after this 10-year period, 1853 to 1863, the Iranian government, the Shah, the king, prevailed upon the Ottoman emperor, the Sultan, that he be removed farther away from the border with Iran. And so it was that particular time, which was a time of devastation for the Baha'is and all the friends. He was known as the father of the poor in Baghdad because he arranged for the poor to receive so much assistance. So it was almost a time of mourning, you could say, because they didn't know where he was going to end up going, if they would ever see him again. And he chose that time, which was April 21st, as you mentioned. 1863, to announce to his followers that he indeed was the one that they had been expecting to come. And so he changed what was a very sad occasion to this great festival, and he said that festival would be celebrated in the future.
Okay.
We're doing that. And then, of course, he was exiled to further parts of the Ottoman Empire until he finally came to the prison city of Akka within the empire. And now, of course, is part of Israel.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well.
That's the history of that.
Yeah. So how did you become this is for my mere curiosity, how did you come to be a Baha'i? Is that how you pronounce it?
1971, I was 19 years old and just starting university, and I had a classmate from West Africa who was a Baha'i, and he had invited me to a Baha'i celebration. And I was impressed by the fact of, everybody was there, old, young, white, black, businessmen and professors and dropouts and hippies, and everybody was just there enjoying each other and respecting each other, and it was just an amazing thing to see in 1971. At that time, people like that just did not mix. And so that kind of piqued my interest, and then when I learned about the faith over the next few months, I studied it and said, "Oh yeah, this is for me." So it's been a long time.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. So how do you think? I guess this could take place during the time of the festival. How are businesses affected by the festival?
Okay, well, I had really thought you were asking about what's the influence of economics on.
Well, I mean, both of those things. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can address that. The teachings in the faith don't espouse technically a certain economic system or not, and yet they have a huge influence on it. And I'll just give a few examples.
Okay.
One of the teachings of the faith is that women and men are equal. And another teaching of the faith is that children must be educated. They must go to school and be educated. And Baha'u'llah says that if a family has limited means and has only sufficient means to educate one child, preference must be given to the female child over the male child, because she will be the first educator of the next generation.
Oh.
And
he's not lying.
Unique.
Yeah.
And has made a massive difference in the land of its birth, in Iran, where the Baha'i girls went to school, achieved university educations, became leaders in meteorology and science and in medicine and education, all of these things. And they really stood out. And of course, they also made sure that all their children were educated. So the Baha'is were known as being very, very educated.
Yeah.
And it led to a certain amount of pushback by the Islamic clergy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes against everything that Islamic. I mean, women are very low status in Islam, and women are not educated, and so it kind of is polar opposite of that.
Right. In fact, at the current time, Baha'is are not allowed to go to university in Iran.
Right now, they're not?
They are not allowed. They haven't been for some years now. And in response to that, since education is a law in the faith, they've taken to organizing themselves. They have kind of like a Baha'i underground university, so to speak.
Okay.
And a number of universities around the world, including Indiana University and Harvard and some other universities, have helped by providing distance learning for these students who have graduated from these Baha'i institution of higher education, this underground university, and gone on to those that have been able to leave Iran have gone on to some of these same universities and got their doctorates. So their education is that important that they make these huge sacrifices to do this.
Yeah.
And from time to time, the authorities find out who's teaching these Baha'i students within Iran, and they get arrested and go through all kinds of hell.
That's awful.
So that's one of the important aspects that is, although it's indirect, it has a huge effect.
It does, yeah.
On the world business and economics because of the stress on education. The other thing I would say is, again, this is indirect, but it's a profound effect, is that Baha'u'llah says that everyone should work. That work done in the spirit of service is accounted as worship. So everyone must work. Therefore, it's not just work itself, but work done to the best of your ability. It's a religious teaching, basically. So the Baha'is have become known for being very trustworthy and dependable. And even in Iran, the Muslims hire the Baha'is to help run their businesses because they know they can depend upon them, and they're honest because that's part of their religion too. It has also made a huge impact in other areas of the world. Bolivia, which has a lot of Baha'is, Kenya, Congo, India, places in the South Pacific. The Baha'i Faith is very widespread throughout the world, just virtually 100-some countries. In fact, I think it's not in numbers, but in geographic areas where it is, it's the second most widespread religion in the world after Christianity.
Yeah.
So the core teaching that probably makes a difference on the world economic system is the teaching that we must strive for justice.
I'm going to put that in quotes on my notes. Must strive for justice.
Yeah, must strive for justice. Baha'u'llah makes a statement. He says, O son of spirit, the best beloved of all things in my sight is justice. Turn not away therefrom if thou desirest me, and neglect it not that I may confide in thee. By its aid thou shalt see with thine own eyes, and not through the eyes of others, and shall know of thine own knowledge, and not through the knowledge of thy neighbor. Ponder this in thy heart, how it behoveth thee to be. Verily, justice is my gift to thee. Set it then before thine eyes. And so we're asked to be independent thinkers. Think for ourselves. Just because we hear somebody say something or other, we need to look at it carefully and determine what the true facts are. And that's on an individual level. On a societal level, we have to make sure that no one is left behind, no one is unduly oppressed or killed or those types of things.
Yeah.
That's the lesson for society. So justice is so crucial to this. And when justice is established, and that would include property rights, if you have a home, people can't just take it away from you, those kind of things, then business flourishes.
Yeah.
Because they need a certainty in the environment that there won't be some capricious decision, an unjust decision to take their business away from them.
Yeah.
Or to take their goods away from them.
Yeah.
The less capricious the justice system is, and the more sure that the security of the people is assured, the more willing businesses are to take a risk, to start up new ventures in different areas where the conditions are correct. And if they can also have a well-educated workforce who are known to be dependable, all the more reason to increase business. So it has this impact on the world that is, while essentially indirect, is a profound impact on the world. Let's see. I have just written a couple notes down to, and I think I probably covered the basic ones just to give you an idea of the things that I've thought of. Of course, I'm just a Baha'i. I'm no special academic, or we don't have clergy in the Baha'i Faith. So I'm obviously not a clergy person.
So speaking of, you don't have clergy and stuff, and like I said, this is for my mere curiosity. Like, when I go to church, the preacher is not in the denomination that I am. The preacher is not like, this is what you should do, go do it. He just kind of talks about it and you interpret it. But I read somewhere that the temples that y'all have, they don't have any like center where you can come up and teach. Is that true? Is that kind of where?
The Baha'i temples, of which there are very few, there's maybe 10 or so in the world. There are one in Chile, one in Panama, one near Chicago, one in Uganda, one in Germany, one in Australia, one in the South Pacific, in a country called Samoa. Who am I missing?
I think India. You got India?
India has a beautiful.
Yeah, the lotus. Yeah, I saw that. I got kind of sidetracked on that part.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Those temples are actually not just for Baha'is. They're built by Baha'is. The money is only contributed by Baha'is. In fact, that's a principle of faith that the Baha'i Faith only accepts money from Baha'is.
Yeah.
Which is a bit unusual, but those are really dedicated to the people in the world. So everybody's free to go there and worship. And the temple itself is usually very quiet. You can go in and you can, silently say your prayers. And then they sometimes have worship services in which readers read from the scriptures of the Baha'i Faith, which is the words of Baha'u'llah from the Christian New Testament, from the Jewish Old Testament, all the various scriptures of the world. And singing is also part of that worship service.
Yeah.
So that's what it looks like in the Baha'i temple. Now, Baha'is themselves can organize and do organize their own worship services in their own communities. Nashville has a very nice Baha'i center. So
yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
Sundays, but we also have a lot of neighborhood worship services.
Mm-hmm.
According to what the people in that area decide.
So,
some people have small children want to have it early on a weekend day, so
yeah.
the children without getting too tired.
Yeah. What is the significance of the number 9? It always shows up. It's always there.
It's not magic or anything, but it's a symbol. 9 being the highest single digit, it symbolizes unity. And since the Baha'i Faith at its core teaches the unity of mankind, the oneness of mankind, the unity of religions, that all these religions are really not in competition. The messengers came with one voice, and that was to educate mankind. And the unity of God, that there is but one God. He speaks through all these messengers.
Yeah.
So it's totally symbolic.
Yeah.
But you're correct in noticing that, because our temples have 9 sides.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you caught that.
Yeah, I mean, I kept on showing up, and I'm like, okay, it's got to have something. So where do most Baha'i people come from? I know it originated in the Middle East. Would you say, and I know it's everywhere, but would you say the Middle Eastern people, that's where it comes from mostly, or is it kind of just...
Again, that's where it originated, but I would say that
come on.
Now we have maybe 300,000 Baha'is in Iran.
Yeah.
A couple million Baha'is live in India, so that's a whole different... They aren't from Muslim background.
Yeah.
We have hundreds of thousands in Bolivia. We have huge populations of Baha'is, in the hundreds of thousands in Congo, in Kenya, some other African countries, Tanzania. Actually, my daughter taught school at a Baha'i school in Tanzania for a year. And in the Pacific Islands, those have huge populations of Baha'is.
Yeah, so it's pretty wide. Yeah.
So it's quite diverse. It's originated in Iran, but their numbers have been eclipsed.
Yeah.
In places in the past 150 years.
Okay, so let me see if I have missed anything. Is there something to do with roses in Baha?
Not really. I mean, only to the extent that during that Rizwan period that you talked about,
mm-hmm.
he was in a garden, and the river overflowed and made that garden become like an island. And so for 9 days he was there with many of his followers, and he had pitched a tent because of the preparation for exile.
Yeah.
Everybody was coming to his home, and yet they had to pack everything in the home to get ready for this exile. So he said, okay, let's go camp out and leave some trusted people behind to pack up everything, get out of their way, let them do their work, and we'll camp out in this garden. And of course it became then this island.
Yeah.
And that island was full of roses.
Yeah.
And the nightingales at that particular time of year would come and sing all night long in that rose garden. So it has become important just because it was that historical event.
Yeah.
And he loved nature. Baha'u'llah did, and Abdu'l-Baha did, and as you can see in our holy places in Israel, we've done the best we can to beautify them with flowers and trees.
Yeah, it's very green. I saw a picture of it, very green.
It's very green, that's right.
Yeah.
That is right.
When you think of the Middle East and Israel, you don't think of just lush green gardens, and it was very pretty.
And they have just amazing Baha'is there that know how to get every bit out of a bit of water. We don't waste water.
Oh, wow.
That was wasted. It's just unbelievable what they do.
Yeah.
It's just tremendous.
Okay. Well, James, if I do, I'm not gonna use a video or anything, but if you would like me to send you the paper afterwards, so if you wanted to review it or anything.
I love that.
Yeah.
That would be great. You could just email it to me. You got my email, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I will do that.
Yeah. Email my email.
And I'll another girl is doing a PowerPoint and stuff like that. And of course, if you have any things or qualms about it, you can tell me.
Sure.
It is, I think it's due next Tuesday, and I know you're traveling tomorrow. I won't have it done by tomorrow, but it will be by this weekend.
I'm available other than tomorrow, I'll be available for phone calls if you got some follow-up questions that you want to clarify something.
Okay. Well, I cannot think of anything else right now. I'm kind of overwhelmed with all this new information coming from somebody.
And I guess once again I would say that the explanations I'm giving to you are filtered by my own limited understanding.
Yeah.
I've been in Baha'i a long time, but that doesn't mean that everything I say is accurate.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like I said, if I have any questions, I will absolutely contact you. And even if one of my other group members has questions, can I give them your number for questions?
Sure, that's not a problem.
Okay. And I'll tell you, I'll make sure that you know that they are a part of my group member and not a salesperson.
Yeah, when I saw that, I just started laughing.
Oh, yeah.
It's clear to you that if you called me, but I didn't know what that number was, I would be, is this a salesperson?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say, if my part-time job is I sell wedding dresses, so I was going to say the only thing I sell are wedding dresses, so. But thanks.
It's such a nice conversation. I hope you get an A.
Oh, I hope so, too. It's a big project. Well, thank you so much for talking to me, James. Is it James or Jim?
You can call me Jim.
Jim? Okay, thank you so much for talking. This has really been helpful.
Nice to meet you, Rachel.
It was so nice to meet you. And like I said, I will send you that project whenever we're done, okay?
Okay. And you're welcome to come down any Sunday and worship with us at usually 11 o'clock. It's a pretty informal worship service.
Okay.
It's open to everybody. We always have people dropping in.
Okay.
And we won't ask you for money.
Okay. You won't ask me if I'm a salesperson. All right. Well, thank you, sir. I may check that out.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.